Hello, everybody. Welcome to Mubarak's podcast. This is Hashmat Mubarak, your host. I'm so excited to introduce our young guest from Afghanistan, Mahdi Rahimi, Afghan human rights advocate, storyteller, and community leader whose works is inspiring many young people across and beyond Afghanistan. He co-founded Empower Her, an initiative that provides mentorship and leadership training for Afghan girls, and also launched the page of Hope English Book Club, a safe space where Afghan youth can exchange ideas, strengthen their biases, and connect to the world through literature. His journey began in Kabul, where he used music to speak about women's rights, freedom, and social justice, transforming art into activism. Mahdi, it's a great honor to have you on Mubarak's podcast there.
Yeah, thank you so much, Ashmed. It's a pleasure to be here, and I'm looking forward to a great conversation with you.
Thank you for joining once again. But let me start from music, your passions. Music has always been a tool for resistance in Afghanistan during times when women and youth were silent. Songs carried message of freedom and courage. And we have hundreds of examples like this. For example, Ariana Saeed, gave Afghan women advice while, Sharvin Hajipur's in Iran became the anthem of protest there, and you began your journey with music through turning it into a form of activism through lyrics and melodies. You highlighted justice and women's rights when many were afraid to speak. But let me ask this: that how did music shape your activism there?
Well, you're right that most of the activism and the basic and primary activism that started in Afghanistan was through music and words. But for me, it's also the same way. So I studied my middle school in Marifat High School in Dasht-e-Barchi, Kabul, Afghanistan. And through that, I went to Marifat High School at fifth grade. And in sixth grade, a year later, I was encouraged by one of my cousins to join Song Music Band. And at the time, Song Music Band was one of the leading bands to advocate for women's rights, universal education, and basically um, community involvement in Afghanistan and throughout Kabul specifically. So through an audition, I got accepted into Song Music Band, and later I got to be a member of it. And from there, not just some music band, but entirely, the entire purpose of Marfa High School was to fight against the norms, the perceived norms that we have in Afghanistan that mostly the conservatives have, which is that, for example, education is not for girls. Girls are the second, girls and women are the second-hand human beings, which is totally not true, and those kinds of things, and that education should be available for all. So that was, and the motto of Marfa High School was Agahi, Azadi wa Barabari, which in English
Yep.
it's liberty, awareness, and freedom. So at the end, Marfa High School really opened up my eyes to what activism means, what advocacy is, what are its definitions, and how people actually do it in terms of groundwork, and specifically in some music band, working with some of the brightest minds that exist in Afghanistan through some music band, specifically instructors like Sami Hamid or Aziz Royesh. We created a space where we would advocate for universal education, women's rights, community involvement, and human rights in general, but specifically educational opportunities. So through that, I got a sense of how the world actually works and how the world and governments are so politicized that human rights and advocacy and activism are not really in their agenda anymore. They just want to look for their interests and those kinds of things. Um, so some music bands and in general music for me was a pivotal moment that opened my eyes, and now we're
Yep.
here working
Uh,
for the betterment of lives for others.
Yeah, but as I have read about your background, you later shifted from music to community building projects. One of your big achievements is co-founding Empower Her, a mentorship and leadership program for Afghan girls. In a country where girls are banned from schools and from university, from education, this kind of initiatives is more than important, it's kind of
Mhm.
necessary. Many young people, dream of helping, but they don't know how and where to begin it and how to begin it. But what it will be so interesting for us to hear from you that what inspired you to sort Empower Her and what impact have you seen it make on Afghan girls so far?
Yeah, well, let me give you a simple answer. The inspiration behind Empower Her was the dire need of reshaping Afghanistan's future through female leadership. Meaning that 2 years later, I had a program, just like you mentioned, Page of Hope English Online Book Club, which was my first official program that could help Afghan youth, specifically females in Afghanistan, and centered around Kabul. I reached out to a couple of my relatives and a couple of my friends who were
Mhm.
stuck in Afghanistan, both men and women. And we created a space where I could teach them English, I could be a mentor for them. And also, the main focus was not just English, but it was leadership skills, communication skills, technological skills, and actually providing them a space where they could practically exercise leadership. Because most of the theoretical ideas that we have today about leadership, they're just in our minds. We can't
Mhm.
really exercise them, and there are not a lot of opportunities for Afghan girls specifically to practice them. So I wanted them to have a project-based curriculum through Page of Hope so that they could practice their leadership, the leadership that was in theory and in their minds.
Mhm. Uh,
And the problem, yep,
When we look at youth activism globally, young leaders are making history. For example, we can see Malala Yousafzai from Pakistan who stood up for girls' education in Pakistan and won the Nobel Prize. Or there is another example from Sweden, like Greta Thunberg started a climate strike in Sweden and inspired millions of young people around the world. These examples shows that age is not a limit. It can actually
mhm,
be a strength. Afghan youth do have courage, resilience, like you, and like thousands of girls inside and outside Afghanistan that they are working day and night for their right and creativity to lead. But the question is how. Your story is one of example that can show this leadership in action. My question is this: that do you believe that Afghan youth can raise as a movement for justice and equality like Malala or Greta did in their countries?
for sure, for sure. I totally support the idea of youth being able to significantly change or reshape the future of Afghanistan, not just Afghanistan, but the entire world. You give the example of Malala. Malala was a young girl when she was shot by the Taliban, and then following her story, and today she has the Malala Fund and providing opportunities for millions of girls around the world, not just in Afghanistan or Pakistan, but in Africa and those kinds of countries. And the second example you gave was Greta Thunberg from Switzerland. She's a great example for youth who fought against climate change, and the conservatives who were actually not in favor of climate change in Switzerland. She brought in millions of youth into this debate that whether climate change matters or not. So that is what we are doing. I truly believe in the power of youth leadership. And for example, a great example might be people like Nilay Brahimi,
Yep.
um, or a great example can be, yeah, she was also studying in Marfa High School and a member of some music band. Um, so these are great examples that youth can reshape the future of Afghanistan and provide opportunities for others and be a great example of a leader who is not just looking for personal growth, but providing resources for other Afghan girls or youth in general so that they can be in the same place where um, the person who is already empowered is. For example, a true leader in Afghanistan should provide opportunities, and through Empower Her, we're doing this that we provide opportunities for the girls in Afghanistan so that they could meet themselves in our position, that we follow the same path, and now we're sharing our path for them so that they could be in the same position as us
Mhm.
eventually. And get the support they need and making sure that they have the resources to launch their impact projects and fight against the oppressive regime.
Working on human rights in Afghanistan is dangerous. We all know this. Advocates face threats, pressure, and sometimes even violence, as we have seen it in the last 4 years. Yet, you continue, and the young Afghan girls continue to speak up, even though it means taking risks. This kind of bravery inspires others who are afraid, but also highlights the heavy responsibility activists carry. There are thousands of young people who are, taking the risk. For example, like me, like you, and I'm sure that. I know completely that one day the regime will come after me, and I don't know when, but I'm 100% sure that they will. Yet I'm not afraid because we stand for something greater than fear. And we stand for our rights, for our freedom, for justice. It's our right to speak, to raise our voices and to defend what is right for everybody and for everyone. They may silence me one day, but along this road and this video, this moment, and this episode will remain as a memory of our fight. But many people give up because they feel risks are too high, but you choose to keep going, something that we are proud of you and what you're doing. This decision is not easy, especially at such a young age. My question is this, that what challenges and risks have you personally faced as a human rights activist, and how do you stay motivated to keep working despite them?
Well, again, a simple answer to this would be some music ban. When I was in Kabul, well, we left Kabul on August 21st, 2021, and I don't have a lot of experience living under the oppressive regime because I just lived there for 6 days. But you have a lot of experience, I can tell. Um, so the reason why we left Afghanistan was because at the time, Taliban had control over the media. They had all the databases they need because the previous government had collapsed, and now they had control over everything. And they had control over the Afghan media as well. And in the Afghan media, especially YouTube, there were clear videos of some music band and its performers, which I was one of them. And they had control over it. They could easily recognize me, and they could easily find us because it was clear that Sound Music Band was based in Marifat High School, and Marifat High School is based in Dasht-e-Barchi, Kabul. So they could come after us. And the other reason was a little bit of a military background in my family. So we had to get out of Afghanistan, and we fled to Pakistan, and I was there for a year and 5 months. But still, it is worth remembering that we were at some point part of that community that is today stuck in darkness.
Mhm.
And that is what drives me forward, that I cannot see Afghanistan with that kind of an oppressive regime, that no one has the right to talk, no one has liberty, and no one gets to elect their officials. That is not what Afghanistan should look like today. Today, in 21st century, other nations are moving towards a very modernized civilization. They're civilizing themselves, but Afghanistan is going backwards every day. And a couple of days ago, I heard in the news that the supreme leader of the Taliban, they're not letting um, people talk bad about the government. That is not what democracy, and that is not what religion tells the human beings to do. So, and the actual thing that drives me forward into my advocacy career is also messages from Afghan girls. Every day, Empower Her receives emails of seeking assistance and those kinds of things. So we really feel the necessity of our work. It's not just about, oh, we created an organization, we should be proud of it. No, it's about we lived in that situation, and now we are the lucky ones to get out of Afghanistan and come to the US. Now we feel it as our vital responsibility to help those in Afghanistan and in Central Asia or Middle East, wherever they need help, so that they feel empowered and they have the same opportunities as us to reshape the future of Afghanistan.
Hmm.
So these emails and texts really help motivate us.
As I have read about your background, you also describe yourself as a storyteller. It will be so interesting for us and for our audience to hear that. Why do you see storytelling as an important part of your activism?
Well, again, I believe that it is really hard to go against established governments, and Taliban, unfortunately, are the current government of Afghanistan. So, and they're opposing laws that girls cannot talk in public or look at each other in public, or those kinds of very conservative ideas. So I believe in a strong in the strength of words as a tool to make change. Therefore, one of the initiatives that Empower Her has is called Her Voice, which basically indicates that we provide girls with the opportunity to publish their writing on our platform, and then we will also talk to some of our other partners, specifically National Society of High School Scholars, which is a nationally organized, recognized platform in the US and in 170 plus countries, and then also another organization in Australia, Amplify African Women. So we provide them with the opportunity to publish their writings because we believe that it is a way of showing and claiming dignity and the lost voice that African girls have lost for the past 5 years. So we want to make sure that through storytelling, the globe or the entire people on this planet can hear that something like this is going on in Afghanistan.
I really appreciate what you're doing, Mahdi John, but advocacy often
Mhm.
feels lonely. Unfortunately, I can feel it with every cell in my body, but networks and friendship make the journey, stronger. You have worked across borders, building connections with the people who believe in equality and justice. These connections show that the struggles in Afghanistan are not isolated. They are part of a bigger global movement. Like collaboration makes voices louder and bridge new ideas. For Afghan youth, learning from global movements can be a source of a strain. Building bridges is just as important as fighting for change at home. Uh, from your experience, it was so interesting to hear that. How has working with international communities and networks influenced your vision for Afghanistan? And what lessons have you learned from global activists?
Well, Working with international communities really opened my eyes to different other kinds of organizations and different kinds of services that other organizations offer. And for me to evaluate what actually works and what actually doesn't work to help Afghan girls. And working with them also opened my eyes to an optimistic future about Afghanistan, that there are thousands, if not a thousand, hundreds of organizations that are working today to provide for Afghan girls and for Afghan youth in general, and to make sure that they have the resources so that they can pursue their education either in Afghanistan or abroad. Um, and I see a strong potential in these organizations. And I see a strong potential in these individuals who are initiating these organizations to be a source of hope um, to reshape the future of Afghanistan and to be able to help more Afghan girls and reach the audience globally so that we can have a tangible impact, not just an impact that we say in media that we helped this many Afghan girls, but at the end of the day, a tangible impact that can last forever and for a girl's lifetime.
Yeah, but then I would like to add this also that we are proud of every Afghan girl, who dares to dream, to speak, to write, to sing a song, to act, both inside and outside Afghanistan. Their courage lies the path for others, showing that even in the darkest times, hope cannot be silenced. Their work they're doing, fighting for rights, education, and equality is nothing short of revolutionary. Actually, those Afghan girls who are hearing that they should know that Afghan men also are proud of them, and we're standing with them shoulder to shoulder, and we stand for what is right. Matty John, Dane, if there is anything that I have missed, or if there is any message that you would like to leave for our audience, Mike is yours there.
Well, I have three messages for Afghan youth who feel hopeless and who feel like there's not enough support for them to raise their voices. First of all, please believe in the power of storytelling and in the power of a growing network outside and inside Afghanistan. I've heard and I've been working with organizations that are working tirelessly to provide for these Afghan youth, specifically Afghan girls. So please stay optimistic and move towards your dreams. Don't give up, and please pursue your dreams. And the second suggestion is that the second message that I have is social media. Please use social media as a source of awareness for yourselves and for others, because many of the nonprofits that today are operating, they're operating through media and they're virtual. So please do not miss on those opportunities because they can either change your life or at least provide some sort of hope for you, so that you don't give up. So please use your social media as a source of awareness and not just entertainment for yourselves. Use it as a source of knowledge and a source of information so you don't miss on these opportunities. And the last point is that I want to encourage all of the male members of the Afghan society to support your female peers. I've been following the Afghan news that sometimes even male members of the family are becoming Taliban agents, meaning that they don't let their children, specifically girls and women, go to school or those kinds of stuff. So I encourage you to leave those conservative ideas and go towards the civilized and modern ideology of education, storytelling, and the power of youth leadership. So, and the most important one is, again, social media. Please use it as a source of awareness and not just entertainment for yourselves to not miss on those great opportunities.
Thank you, Matty John, for joining us. It was a great conversation, Dave.
Yeah, thank you so much, Ashmajan, for your work, first of all, and for the courage to do it from within Afghanistan. That's a huge thing. So thank you so much, and thanks for raising awareness about women's rights.
I really appreciate it. See you there.